into the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
I might be going right now. Check me out tomorrow.
I love this song.
Just those little breaks.
I know, I just really dig this stuff from Mr. Brandon Calhoun. Hey everybody out there, and welcome to another Battle Creek After Show. Tonight we're talking Season 1, Episode 10, Stockholm. And before we dive into the episode, I want to make sure you guys out there all subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV. You can also catch all of our after shows on the AfterBuzz app, on iTunes, and on SoundCloud. I'm Lauren Salaun. I'll be your host for the evening. You can find me on Twitter at Lauren Salaun, and I'm joined, as usual, by my awesome co-host, Gary Thomas. How's it going, Gary?
Good. Do I sound good tonight?
You sound great tonight.
You know, I have a little, bad sinuses, so I decided to clear my sinuses up because I said I sounded stuffy on all the other episodes. So I am great tonight because I can breathe.
Good. Sounding great, clear, healthy. Where can everyone find you on Twitter and everywhere else?
Everywhere, Instagram and Twitter, I am Gary Thomas. And of course, I have a website, iamgarythomas.com.
Perfect. I am Gary Thomas. Right there.
Easy.
Nice and easy. All right, so let's dive in. Stockholm. So the episode opens up with a prison escape, which we learn Mr. Ford has escaped. He is called an idiot by the prison warden. He was a bank robber and murderer, had been in prison for 20 years, was set to be released 5 days later. 5 days later, and decides to escape. So everyone's like, they're like, well, why would you say he's an idiot? He escaped prison. Hello. And he's like, he's going to be released this week. So there, and then Milt and Russ are going into all these different theories of why he would escape the week he's scheduled to be released, because that doesn't make sense, and they end up, Mr. Ford, so they're going through and searching like the premises and stuff and around neighboring areas just to try and find where he went, because he's on foot, he can't get too far there in cars. And Mr. Ford ends up taking Russ hostage and leaving Milt behind. And in the car, in the SUV with Russ, we very quickly learn that Mr. Ford is not, in fact, an idiot.
No. Actually, that whole time, like when they got out of the car and they were looking at the broken wood, I was getting nervous because I know he's going to get it. I already knew from last week he was going to get abducted, but I was like, oh my gosh, you're about to get taken. Don't go to the car. You always scary movies.
Don't do it. Oh, yes, I'm that person all the time. Like, no, what are you doing? Obviously he's going to be in there. So
exactly. Yeah,
totally. We knew that broken fence and all that stuff. Something was going to go down. And of course, obviously the promo for this week's episode definitely told us already what was going to happen. So Mr. Ford takes Russ hostage and they leave Milt behind, and Ford is talking about the tracking systems in these cars. And he's like, well, no, they need a warrant, all this stuff. So we quickly learn that he is much smarter than he appears, or than we thought. And then they go to a house to switch cars. And again, we learn this guy is pretty sharp because he's talking about security systems, all that sort of thing.
He's like, a light on 11 p.m. is okay, but a light on at 3 a.m., they just want somebody to think that they're there. Right. So he was good. He was on top of everything.
Yeah, exactly. And we cut to the department, and everyone's getting pretty, they quickly figure out, like, obviously that Russ has been taken, and everyone's kind of teaming up, banding together to figure out how to find him. And Milt kind of lets it slide that, like, we have to do the best thing, like, for us, like, because says
we are the ones that really care about him, which goes along with what I was saying last week in my prediction. I said this whole episode was going to be about, like, Milt doing anything possible to find Russ because he cares about him.
Yeah, it was going to be our, like, Milt and Russ love story. Not, like, in that sense, but, like, their friendship, and they were going to connect and stuff. And, yeah, he says, us, I mean, You guys. Yeah. Nice cover up, Milt. Nice try.
What?
We know you want to be part of the Battle Creek family. I mean, he doesn't just want to. I mean, he's part of it at this point.
He has some type of attachment to Russ.
Yeah, he's trying to crack Russ's hard exterior and get, figure out who Russ really is and kind of make that connection with him.
Could it be that, because Russ is the only person that doesn't like him, he's not used to that, and he's like,
Very well could be.
I need to break this wall down. Everyone likes me.
Right, yeah, very well could be. I mean, and he doesn't really Russ doesn't really have a good reason to dislike Milt.
No,
which we
deep down he probably doesn't. He's just jealous or
a grump.
Yeah.
He's just a grump. So, things closed. Yeah, so the team is all rallying up to get Russ back, and Russ and Ford go to a gas station and they're talking with the family. Ford's got a gun in his belt, everything. Russ is handcuffed to the steering wheel and he's trying to motion to this poor kid in the back seat that like, hey, help me, what's going on? And
that kid was
dumb kid.
Idiot. Like, if I see somebody handcuffed to a steering wheel, I don't need to hear what you say. I'm automatically going to start questioning, like, okay, sir, what is going on? Like, that kid was like,
yeah, right?
What?
You'd think something fishy was going on. This kid's not like 2 years old. He
exactly.
Was like 11 at least.
He was a fat idiot. That's what that kid was.
Sorry, kid. I actually thought at that point that the kid was going to say something like, hey, Dad, there's a guy in the back with handcuffs or something like that, that would have escalated the situation.
Right.
But it was still one of those comedic moments that was fun to have. So in that moment, we figure out a scene later that Ford drops Russ's GPS phone into their car so that the whole team ends up tracking that family's car and throwing down the nail strips and stuff. And so, he led them on a little wild.
Everything was very strategic. Like, he was very smart in the things that he did,
Right. Yeah. Very smart. And which was fun to watch because you're expecting to see kind of this dumb guy or who knows what the deal was from the beginning. So Ian Funk ended up going to visit the third guy, who was not Ford's brother. So the team who robbed the bank back in the day, which actually let's back up real quick. So Ford is in prison for murder and bank robbery for 20 years. That seems that seems a little ridiculous that he unless the murder
because the murder wasn't really his fault.
Okay, the murder was directly for his brother.
Yeah, so you and I thought that he directly murdered somebody. So we were like, 20 years? That's all you got for robbery and murder?
That's a little easy, letting this guy off the hook 20 years later. Like, it seems a little
because technically he didn't kill anybody.
Yeah, but if somebody dies in the course of a felony or something, it's, you get charged with murder. I'm pretty sure is how that works.
I'm guessing that's what happened here.
Yeah, so I think that's where the murder came in instead of. I think they would have told us if someone else had died in the process, like at the bank or something. Right. So that must have been it, which was why his sentencing was
20 years
less than what you would expect.
I'm like, he should be in there for life.
Yeah, we were both like, wait, 20 years? He's getting out. He murdered somebody. So anyway, getting back to that, wanted to make sure we talked about that really quickly. So E and Funk go to visit the third guy who's involved. So not the brother, obviously, who died, but the other friend. And they are wondering if maybe, one of the theories was that, like, okay, so did his partner end up getting out before him or something, or did the partner go get all the money and now he's trying to escape to go beat the partner to the money, like all these things surrounding the money from the robbery and the partners and stuff. And we don't really learn a ton of drama or anything between them. It doesn't seem like there was
there isn't any drama between them.
The partner ends up giving them names of people and they end up going to his great aunt. Well, no, they end up going first to the ex-wife and niece and talking with them, and they learn that there was a fight going on at their last visit. We don't really tell them what it was about, and then we learn that the ex-wife had agreed to visit and kind of check in on Ford's great aunt.
Which was like totally not true, but a good diversion. A very good story to divert them on.
Yes. So they end up going to visit the great aunt, who's like, you know, while we're watching, I definitely thought they were going into the right house.
Right,
because
it looked the same, yes.
You know, Russ was being, you know, stored or captured or whatever. And it ends up not being the right house. And meanwhile, while Russ is you know, tied up and stuff, he's trying to get the dog to like bring him a saw and all these different things, and the dog looks like Cookie.
That's what you thought last week was gonna be Cookie. I'm like, that's not Cookie.
It looked very similar, but definitely a different dog. And Russ came up with a pretty smart tactic with saying that he is diabetic,
which was good because like the whole story with him and Goosewicks and they're, you know, talking in back in the day if they ever got kidnapped, like that was all, it was really well written. Like that was some good planning. I think that was good.
This episode was definitely very strategic and smart, I think, from Ford's perspective and kind of his thought process with things. I liked seeing that. And then also with Russ's thought process on how to kind of trick Ford and how to, you know,
help the tracking
try and get
and
himself
stuff like that.
out of that situation. I thought that was really smart, you know, saying something like, well, before you ditched my phone, did you notice the insulin tracking app?
First of all, he had a flip phone. There was no app on that phone.
That is true, actually.
Not at all.
Oh, yes, that's true. He does have a flip phone. So
you don't have any apps on that phone, Russ. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The calendar, you mean?
Right.
I don't know what that is.
The alarm you set to take it.
Right. So Ford ends up hiring a guy to go pick up this insulin prescription for him. And, you know, obviously the Battle Creek police take down this guy, and it's obviously not Ford, all that. So it was another trick. And the insulin gets back to Russ, and there's this whole kind of back and forth between them, because he's like, so if you're lying to me and you're not diabetic, then you're going to get, this could really be bad for you. But if you are, then we're cool. And so he gives him the shot. And I don't know if when that really happens, if, you know, if somebody without diabetes gets shot with insulin, like how that exactly affects you. I know it's not good for you, but I don't know if you would die or just get really sick or what goes on in that situation.
So I'm assuming that, you know, something is obviously with your sugar levels.
Right.
And I'm guessing it kind of like either pulls it away or takes it, or because when he in the next scene, because
he has to eat a lot of sugar.
Like he asked for, you know, donuts and stuff like that. So I guess to bring the sugar back.
Yeah.
Into
So
blood
I think
system.
his blood, if you take it and you're not diabetic, your blood sugar drops so dramatically, I guess, so that he had to
have to look that up.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look this up. Science. If anyone's diabetic or knows about this, comment below, because we are curious about the science behind this. But anyway, so then Ford ends up feeding him all the donuts to kind of help him get back on track, which is a little counterintuitive, being that he's his hostage and he doesn't, you know, shouldn't really care about Russ's well-being, but he's kind of looking out for him, which later they end up piecing together a bit, like, you know, he wasn't intentionally trying to hurt me or trying to hurt anybody. He's, you know, so he's got a different motive for getting out here, because he made sure that I not only got the insulin in case I really was diabetic, but then when he figured out that I wasn't, ended up doing the right things for me to get better.
They had conversation too. They talked.
They bonded a little bit. And, you know, I think also when so he's being kidnapped at, I don't know what the word is I'm trying to figure out. He's being
held captive.
There we go. Thank you very much. He's being held captive at this woman Veronica's house, who is a little loopy old woman. You know, she comes down the first time and doesn't do anything. She's like, "Oh, are you one of
Mitchell's friends?"
He's
like, he's like, "I'll help you right back." Like,
yeah, not exactly help me, lady. And then she just leaves the dog food, and you know, her life alert goes directly to Mich and stuff. So all these things that Russ is trying to do, which you're like, "Oh, smart, yeah, get the old lady's life alert," to no avail. So we see that we've got the whole insulin thing, and the Veronica's not the great aunt, like all this stuff, all this back and forth. And Milt ends up going on the news to make a statement saying that he is willing to exchange himself for Russ and talking directly to Mich. And, Russ is watching. And of course, in true Russ fashion, with the whole like bickering and distrust for Milt, is like, oh, he's just doing this for himself or just to look like a good guy. Like, he doesn't mean it. And they have this, he and Mich have this whole kind of debate about
kind of an argument almost.
Yeah,
like,
whether or not he actually cares and if that was genuine. And that to me seemed a little forced. Like they were trying to kind of force that moment to happen.
I think they just wanted us to understand, and there was no way to blatantly make us understand, what was going on other than having this kind of conversation. But we've already talked about this because I talked about this last week. I felt like that was going to be the case with this episode because just from the previews, Milt obviously has some type of feelings towards Russ, and you see that from the start of the episode of why he brings him on the case and everything like that. So this commentary, I felt like was just, it did seem a little forced because we went into that other scene in the car, which was the kind of emotional scene. So all of it just seemed a little contrived and like we couldn't get with it. Right. But it was, I don't see any other way of us understanding this without them
It did seem like they were trying to like connect those dots, like force the metaphor a little too hard.
For the viewers.
For the viewers. But they end up having this kind of heart-to-heart talk about it, like saying, well, it's not, Russ is saying it's a pointless gesture, and then they kind of lead into talking about and reflecting on, I guess, the actual robbery and Mitch's brother dying. And we have this whole kind of long flashback scene about what happened there. He is saying, like, the robbery went perfectly, the getaway went perfectly, and then someone ran a red light and they get T-boned. His brother is the driver and gets hit really bad, and the third partner ends up, is cutting and running with like their blessing, essentially.
He's like, go,
he wasn't just like,
brother.
Peace out. He was like, I'm not leaving my brother, gonna stay here, sort of thing. And that's, again, where we see that this guy kind of has a heart, even though he's kidnapped Russ, broken out of jail, he has a heart in there.
And even the great aunt described him that way. She was like, he's very sweet and all this. So we already knew, but we didn't take that into consideration. Right. We were like, that's his great aunt, and she knew him since he was younger, whatever. She's going to say he's a nice kid. But in reality, that the description was supposed to give us the foreshadow of that this is who he is. He's a good person.
Yeah, so we, they've got this moment. I did think that stylistically, the flashback was a little melodramatic. Like,
I was all into it.
I'm sitting there watching and like, oh my gosh, this is so cheesy. And Gary's like,
your brother died.
I know. But so, maybe it just wasn't my style. I just thought the lighting was a little too like ethereal, and the blur was a little much, and there was really dramatic music playing, so it just was a little funny.
You gotta you got like an icebox over there.
I'm like slamming on those feelings that we had going on tonight. But it happened a few weeks ago. Wasn't there a really, oh no. It wasn't.
Oh yeah, it was. It was our one episode where the little girl was talking to her uncle in the car.
Yeah.
That moment. It's kind of the same situation where it's like they're forcing this emotional
sometimes the emotional things I feel like are a little trying too hard, which is the challenge I think with this show that we've talked about several times, is that when we have the drama and the serious moments, we get really involved and invested in them, and that's when we really like it. But then it's how do you balance the comedy with that? So sometimes it feels a little forced because maybe we're coming off a comedic moment or what. So sometimes that balance is a little
If
skewed.
the show was a complete drama, it would have been a much smoother transition. We wouldn't have paid so much attention to it.
Right,
You would have been into it. We'd have both been into it. Probably pulling a couple Kleenexes out. But because we just came off a funny moment, you weren't there, and I was still into it.
Yeah. So I love how they got the tip about where Russ was. So, Milt does his whole like press conference announcement sort of thing. And then back at the station, Milt's like, I want to hear every single tip that comes through. Which
goes back to what we were talking about, Milt.
He loves Russ. He loves Russ. He wants to hear everything because it could be a lead. And so Aaron's like, yeah, we got, or no. Who was saying it?
They both were like, we gotta. Well, Aaron started. Aaron and funk started with the the psychics coming.
Yeah. So
the hotel room.
Right. They have one person. They're like they're at this. She says that Russ is in her hotel room.
The Marriott, room 312.
Yeah, this is the room number, and there's a key with your name on it at the front desk.
She was trying to get to Milt.
Yep, exactly. He's like, oh, okay, send someone else over there. And then the psychic, all these ridiculous things, and Milt's like, okay, well, check that one out too. And then Niblets says that a woman called in and said that Russ is at her house, but not to worry because he has his insulin. And he's like, wait, what?
That's it, because like, he knew.
Yeah, he's not even diabetic. Yeah, so.
But he knew from Goosewicks, which was really good. Like this whole thing was smart. Like, and I just like the relationship that Russ and Goosewicks has. Like they had so many years of, just working together and personal relationship and the son and just. It's just really good to see that keep coming back, They keep coming back and they keep, showing different ways how they're connected and how they know each other. So it helps like the whole storyline.
Yeah, totally. And their family. I mean, we know
that
basically Goosewicks doesn't have a lot of family, and Russ neither. I mean, even in this episode, he tries to kind of relate to Mich by saying I check on my grandma all the time too, and I live with her and take care of her and stuff like that. He's like, no, you don't. You've got a grandma, but you don't hang out with her.
Right.
And,
you've been with me 6 hours and you haven't pleaded for your life.
Right. And obviously we've seen Russ's mom, and there's like, clearly some drama there.
We don't want to get on that, whether she loves him or not.
So anyway, Russ and Goosewicz are like family, and I like seeing that dynamic a lot.
Like, he loves her son. Like, they have to bring him back.
I know.
We won't be, but we will.
So they end up getting this tip. They go and find Russ, and Milt is the one who gets down there first, and then Milt and Russ
hug, which
I think I predicted that exactly.
Yeah, you did.
Week,
and I wasn't. I don't think I was
hug.
I don't think I was completely on board with that one, but it happened. It happened.
I'm predicting a hug, which is
you ran over and laid his hand on his chest.
It was like a nestle
because his hand was still
handcuffed.
handcuffed.
I know. It was so sweet. I loved it. I loved that moment. I'm like, finally, they love each other, or like Russ loves Milt back. And so I really liked that moment. But then I was a little disappointed at the end when Russ turns Milt down for going to have a beer.
And goes home and has a beer anyway. Right. You could have got a free beer. FBI dollars.
Exactly. So they end up, and we lead in after that because, they find Russ, but then Mich is nowhere to be found. So now they're still trying to figure out where Mich went and what his whole reason for getting out of jail was in anyway, because they still haven't figured that out. Nobody knows this. And Russ is kind of defending him and saying that he's like a good person and he wasn't trying to hurt me, all this stuff, which is...
He's just saying, I wouldn't say he was necessarily defending him or trying to say, I just think he said, this is not about a crime. This obviously can't be about a crime, because if it were, he would have already killed me. He would have never helped me and do this and this and this. So let's think outside the box, which is kind of like the ideal trait of Russ. He always kind of has you think differently.
Definitely. Which is where the whole title of this week's episode comes from, Stockholm Syndrome, where, if you get kidnapped or abused or something, you develop, positive feelings for your abductor in some way.
Or relatable feelings.
Empathy, like fondness, any positive type feelings generally, which, you probably shouldn't if they kidnapped you.
Right. Which is... we see that happen a lot in the real world, though. And I'm glad they got back to doing good titles for the shows, because last week was kind of off. We didn't get it, really. But neither here nor there. Stockholm was a good one.
Stockholm, definitely a good one. And it made sense, because it wasn't like, obviously, Russ wasn't off base with thinking while this man is very much a criminal, thinking that he also has some heart and, good kind of upstanding qualities at the same time. So Russ wasn't off. So it was a good title because it gave us a little clue, but it didn't kind of give it all away.
Well, they did a good job with this one, because that was what he said about, Mich said that about Russ. He said, the whole time, like 6 hours, you've been spending more time trying to figure me out instead of, pleading for your life or caring about other people. So Russ does that. He like really dives into people's personalities and asks these questions and kind of pulls from you. So that's kind of cool about him. He gets to know you, and that helps him be a better detective.
Mm-hmm. I did feel kind of sad for Russ, though, when Mitch was talking to him and like, so you, like, most of the time people are begging for a phone call to call their loved ones or, all this stuff. And Russ is just like, has nobody he wants to reach out to. Obviously, Holly, he wants to reach out to Holly. Right. But yeah, I felt kind of like bad for him. He's like, I have more people in prison who care about me than you have outside of prison.
He just came for him, like, just.
I know. I was like, ooh, burn.
Right for the juggler, like.
You're probably right, though.
Oh, man. Russ, you got people that care about you.
I know.
Not me, but.
No, I care about you, Russ. So they end up getting notified that the niece and ex-wife have been abducted somehow. So they're like, oh,
Milt's like, oh my gosh, you were wrong. And Russ is like, let's just get there.
Right. And they get there and realize that, oh no, the women escaped. Which, come on, buddy. Like, that one little cop who's there watching them, you had one job. How do you let two people? I can get maybe like, I mean, 2 people, 2 versus 1, maybe it's easier to escape, but like 2 people escaped and he didn't really even like notice.
They say you had one job
like
to
he
do.
couldn't even follow them because they had already been gone.
Exactly.
So anyway, he should get fired.
Fired? He sucks completely. But in his defense, he was doing a swoop around. He was
checking the perimeter.
Yeah.
So they just waited till he was on the other side of the house, clearly.
Which again, goes back to Russ's theories. He was pretty on point with this one.
Yeah. So we learned that he was going to his niece's wedding and she couldn't get married later when he actually was released because her fiance's in the military and he's going to get deployed soon. So he escaped for the sole purpose of being there for his niece on her wedding day, to walk her down the aisle, which was a promise he made to his brother when he was dying. Which, again, I maybe I'm just like not in a very feelingsy place today because I'm like, are you serious? Just wait and then don't go back to prison. Be done with prison. And you're like, oh. I was like, that was his brother's
dying wish.
I know.
He was like, I'm going to be in jail, though. He was like, but you're going to be alive.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I was like, oh, buddy, you should have waited a few days.
5 days. Well, I mean,
I blame the niece. I blame the niece.
Yeah, I was about to say I blame the niece. Like, she couldn't have waited.
Yeah, plan that wedding a little bit better.
Exactly. Like, you can't wait till he gets back.
Right, because how long is he going to be back in prison? If you're getting out in 5 days and you escape, take a cop hostage, like all these crimes have been committed since then. Like, now how long does he go back to prison for?
Exactly.
That sucks. Probably not 5 more days. I mean, he probably goes for a little while.
And the niece visits him all the time. So she has a very good bond with him. You would have thought that if she knew when he was getting out, she would have planned her wedding around this. So this whole thing is her fault.
How long is her fiance going to be deployed for? Like, not 100 years.
Exactly. And if he dies, then you're going to be a widow. So you shouldn't have got it. You should have just waited.
See, here's the solution, niece.
Right. You just ruined his life.
Gotten, made it official on paper or whatever so that you can have the benefits of being a married couple in the military because that is a thing that you you want to make sure you're married so you can stay together, all that stuff. But he's gonna come home like maybe after a year or 6 months or something. 5 days,
and by the day of the wedding, it was 4 days.
Yeah, so she should have just maybe postponed the wedding 6 months or something, or wait till next year.
If you think about
it, like the actual celebration and
if you think about it, her wedding was actually 3 days before he got out. Yeah. Because the next day was, the following day would be 4, and then they had another day.
Right.
Was so 3 days. Why would you have your wedding?
It seems like it could have been planned a little better. Even if he was getting deployed. Like, at some point, he gets leave.
She's a pretty terrible niece. Like, really.
Annie, you are a terrible niece.
Like, she's the whole downfall of the whole episode. Like.
The weakest link. There it was,
like, you could have did so much better.
Yeah. Well, anyway. So, we've got this it was a very touching moment and very funny how Russ is handcuffed to him just in case he
And Milt's all like...
Yeah, Milt's tearing up, softy. And then we've got, the wedding happens, they take him back, he goes back to jail, whatever. He feels very happy and proud that he did that for his brother, his dying wish, all this stuff. And then we have a little moment back at the station between Holly and Russ. And this was another thing that we weren't sure of, because Holly last week left to go on the cruise with her new boyfriend. And we're
Brady,
like, okay,
the coffee guy.
Yeah, so we're like, so is Holly going to be gone the whole time and then get back and not know that Russ was gone?
Mm-hmm.
Or is she going to be there the whole time and freaking out, and we'll really see that emotional strain from her? And we see that she was gone the whole time. She gets back and she's like, so did I miss anything? And Russ is like, no, not really.
Nope.
Not a big deal. And then as he passes her by the coffee,
I was like, rewind. Did you see that?
Brush against her back, sort of
he
thing.
Smelled her hair.
The hair. It was a very intimate pass.
Yeah,
by
I was
somebody.
did you see that?
I know. I was like, I saw the tail end of it. Let's rewatch that. It was for sure. Yeah, he was putting it on.
Yeah, he definitely was in the moment.
Oh yeah, he liked that. And then Milt comes in, asks him if he wants to go get a beer, and Russ is kind of in the zone, doesn't hear him completely because he's like, oh, I love Holly. That's what he's thinking.
I'm still smelling the whiff of hair.
The shampoo. How do I make my move? And he says no. That was the saddest moment to me of the whole episode, because I'm like, they just hugged, which I've been waiting for. I'm so excited for the big hug that just happened, and now they're going to be best friends. Not best friends, but they're going to get along now.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a breakthrough, because after Mitch kind of completely dogged him out about everything, you would have thought that he was going to take the advice.
Yeah, that he's going to go out on a limb and, go outside of his comfort zone a little bit. And that...
No, that was just too much for
Russ.
Too much for Russ.
Yeah, and then we see him at home enjoying a beer by himself. Or not really enjoying a beer, drinking a beer
and
like
thinking,
a lonely dummy.
And I think that I wanted to go back. I think it was good to not have Holly there, because it would have overshadowed Milt.
Yes.
And his emotions, towards Russ, because we'd have all been on Holly. All the viewers would have cared more about Holly and how she was reacting to it than Milt. So it's good not to have her.
Very good point. Yeah, this was all about Milt and Russ's dynamic, And exactly, if Holly had been there, we would have been focused on her, which brings us to next week's episode. So why don't we make some predictions about next week? Do we have any prediction music? Woo!
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
The prediction hands. All right, so we see in the teaser, we see a lot in the teaser that I wasn't completely ready for. So we see Russ not only say that he likes Holly, those exact words, but we see a makeout session. It was steamy. It was hot. A passionate makeout sesh.
Yeah.
Which I believe takes place at the police station.
Yeah, it's in the evidence room or something.
Yeah. And then we see Milt saying something about
did you have a 237 with her?
Yeah, did you have a 237 with Holly? He's like, what's that? Officer down. Which all of that seemed so like we were in a parallel universe.
It did.
Right?
So this is probably, like you said, it probably is not real. Another episode.
And we noticed that the makeout scene, the quick blip of that we got, did seem to have kind of that different lighting that happens in the flashback. So maybe it's a daydream somebody has. So
I'm hoping who do you think daydreamed it?
I think Russ.
Do you think Russ daydreamed it?
Yes. I think so. I don't know. Somebody on YouTube, one of our commenters on YouTube said that Holly just needs to man up and make a move, which I completely...
Holly? Holly needs to... I didn't see this comment, and so I'm going to have to go look this one. Holly needs to man up and make a move, or Russ needs to man up and make a move?
If I were Holly, I'd probably have made a move by now. Just because I'd
Brady.
Be so
Brady already...
Well, that's true.
No, Brady already stepped up to the plate, so why does she need to make a move? She's
I guess
already
that's
been
true.
entertained.
Holly's...
She said, a girl can only wait so long. She's not supposed to be the one courting. She's supposed to be pursued.
Oh, you're such a gentleman.
That's what she said.
I agree with that. But sometimes, if you want someone, you just make it known.
I don't think she got the confirmation that
she didn't.
A two-way street
I don't
until
think
the hospital.
Did. Right. So I think, though, that it's Milt. Or not Milt. That would be good if it's Milt who has the daydream about Russ and Holly hooking up. No, I think it's Russ who has that daydream. And then because I think it's going to kind of rock him next week with, like, he's going to be like, oh my gosh, I like Holly. I've had all these, like, I did some soul searching while I had my beer at home by myself, and I love Holly, and he's going to be overwhelmed by that, I think, next week, and be having some, like, daydream fantasies or something. I wonder, though, if the Milt moment, his comment, I think that happens in real life, though.
Oh, yeah, I think that's real.
Yeah.
So we don't know what a 237 is. We'll learn it because
I know. It seems dirty. Milt.
Maybe.
Yeah, but so what do you think? Do you think they make out in real life?
No.
Because it seems like next week's episode is all about the Holly Russ situation.
I don't think they make out in real life. I think that'd be too easy. I think that'd be too soon for us, for viewers.
I agree. I think a date is going to be asked.
I'm not sure if I think that either. I just think that we're getting closer.
Yeah.
Something's going to trigger some more information to come out. Something, somewhere where they can interact a little bit more. But I don't think we're going to get the whole thing yet. I think it'd be too soon.
I think he's going to ask her out. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to be bold.
If he asks her out, but he wouldn't even get a beer with Milt, like, I just don't see it. Russ is going to forever be a loner.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so we've got a little news to cover before we wrap up because we're almost out of time. But we have bad news to share with everybody. Battle Creek has been canceled. They're not going to renew it. So we have this one season, which we have really enjoyed, but we've only got the 13 episodes. And so that means we've just got 3 more after this. This was number 10. So we've got 3 more and then we're done.
We're done with this. There won't be season 2. There won't
so
be another
sad.
AFTERBUZZ show of this.
But we will be here throughout the rest of the season 1.
Yes.
So be sure you guys keep sticking with us on this because we love it and we want to see what happens with the rest of the season.
Yeah, relationship. This is all about relationships.
Yeah,
so we're going to see like a lot of different things. 3 more.
Boy.
3 more.
Oh boy, I know. I was so sad. I saw that over Twitter and I was like, what? Come on. I'm like, but Holly and Russ, they have to get together and date.
I know. So sad.
So sad news, but that's the truth of it.
Josh, you're going to have to find another job.
Right? Yeah.
You got
all
a baby.
Of them. Yeah, seriously. All right, and actually, before we end, I have a quick question. If you, which I was thinking of when we were talking about this, so with Russ and Goose's, like, strategy for, like, if they ever get captured, what would you do in that situation?
If I ever got kidnapped, what would I do?
What would you, do you have any, like, tactics? Like, how would you do that? I
never have thought about that.
Never?
Like, whoever thinks, like Milt, what would you do?
I don't have an actual answer, but I think about that more than I probably should. And it's probably because I watch so many shows like this, like Law and Order and Criminal Minds and things like I love crime shows. So I'm always like, okay, if I were in that situation, I would grab that thing over there and I'd, do this and that.
I would totally try to escape. Like, I wouldn't worry about, getting you to track me down.
I always try and think of what my code word would be if someone's like, okay, they've got a gun to your head sort of thing, and they're making you talk to your loved ones over the phone and be like, no, I'm fine, I swear, what that phrase would be that would be so undetected by the bad guy, but clearly means you're in trouble. Like, no, I'm just a little hungry right now, which you could say very easily in normal conversation when it's not an emergency. But, you have to have some sort of phrase like that just in case. You're like, safe word.
You and your fiance come up with safe words, okay? while I try to escape.
What it means if you get kidnapped. Okay, good. We will think of this, and next week we'll come up with some good stuff. If you guys have any, like, of your what if you get kidnapped tactics to get out of it, let us know, because you never know.
I think a million people are going to have. I think a million people are now going to have type 1 diabetes.
Right? Yeah, that was smart. That was really smart. Or like asthma or something, Right. I feel like it's always those movies and stuff where little kids have asthma. It's like, they're going to die because they don't have their inhaler and you kidnap them, you dummy. So anyway, we're getting a little off track, but because I think we're just sad and emotional that
the show's canceled.
This is our first show after learning that it is being canceled. So anyhow, That about does it, I think, for
It
tonight.
does.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys out there so much for
3 more
tuning in.
episodes.
3 more episodes to go. As always, be sure you guys are subscribed to us on YouTube, youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV. Check us out on SoundCloud, iTunes, and the AfterBuzz TV app as well. And tweet us during the week. Find us on all our social media. Comment on the YouTube videos. We want to know what you guys think of the episodes and everything, and we want to talk to you about them. I'm Lauren Salaun. You can find me all over the internet, every single social media platform, basically, at Lauren Salaun. That's LaurenSalaun. And Gary, where can everyone find you again?
Of course, I am Gary Thomas on Instagram and Twitter, and I am GaryThomas.com.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.